Step 8, we're going to create action plans, due dates, and responsibilities. Once we understand our priorities, then we've got to create the action plans. So what are we doing? Step 1, Step 2, Step 3, Step 4. You've got to break that down into detail of how I'm going to get there. Priorities just don't happen on their own. You've got to sit down with your team and decide what are the action steps that we are going to have to take from today to when we want to hit that priority. Then you're going to create the due dates. Once we understand the roadmap, and I've got, for instance, in some of our plans, we've got 50 different action plans, steps in order to hit a priority. But those 50 need to happen by certain dates. So then we go back and we assign dates to each of those steps. Because we know if we're not at step 6 by a certain date, we're not going to be able to hit our priority. There are certain time-sensitive dates in order for us to hit the priorities. Then we're going to do roles and responsibilities. And that's key, because when we're doing priorities, there are going to be many different departments, there are going to be many different people involved. And one of the things that we do as leaders is that we assume everybody understands what their role and responsibility is, but they don't. So as a leader, we've got to be crystal clear on what those action steps are, crystal clear on the dates that they're supposed to be due, and then crystal clear on the roles and responsibilities of those who are participating to make sure that that priority is achieved. You've got to ultimately pick one person who is accountable to make sure that that priority is hit. You're going to have a lot of people responsible for doing different parts of that job, and that's fine. But ultimately, we're all going to look to one person and say, you are accountable. It's your job to make sure that this happens. They are playing air traffic control. Oftentimes, the people who are accountable may not have the same business title as you do. I know in my organization, I'm responsible for doing parts of a project, but I'm not accountable. I'm actually being told by my employee who is accountable what to do and when to do it by. And I've got to conform to that even though I'm the CEO. And then we have to make sure that we confer with others on the team so we don't make isolated decisions. And the best advice that I can give you is something called mine versus ours. If you do this in a vacuum, if you create the action steps, you create the timetables, and you create who's doing what, roles and responsibilities on your own, people may resist. But if you do it together, see, that's a mine. But if I do it as ours, and I say, here's our priority, what do you think that our action steps should be? Now, will I as an owner throw in things if they've forgotten, or I know certain different departments have to participate? Of course, because everybody looks at a priority through their lens, through their sunglasses. But as an owner, as a leader, you've got to decide, you have to make sure that all of the pieces are there. And then we pick out timetables. What is a doable date for you? What's a reasonable date for you to hit this? When can you get that done? When do you need this particular action step completed by? And then finally, you're going to talk about who's doing what. And when all the people participate in this, then it's ours. And when times get tough, they're more apt to push through those tough times. They're more apt to come up with great ideas when they're brainstorming about how to overcome a particular roadblock in order to not hit your priority. How are we going to do that? But if it was yours, then they simply come back to you and say, we've hit a roadblock. See, that's learned helplessness, and we've talked about that. But when you create an atmosphere of self-sufficiency, that is really fostered by people participating in the creation of that roadmap, of those timelines, and those roles, responsibilities. So by identifying all of those things, sharing, and getting input from your people, you're more apt to hit your top 3 priorities.
The Road to Excellence, 6 leadership strategies to build a bulletproof business is on sale now at shop.sandler.com. Contact a local Sandler trainer to learn more about our Organizational Excellence Management Training Program, or click subscribe to get notified about future management tips.